How success creates its own failure. Success is usually treated as an endpoint, a finish line, proof that the right decisions were made and the correct path was chosen. It feels like validation rather than a phase. It encourages rest instead of vigilance. Early success trains people to rely on instinct instead of reflection. But history shows something different. Patterns repeat regardless of culture or era. The outcome changes, the mechanics do not. What worked once is repeated without re-evaluation. In many cases, success is not the end of the story. It is the start of a slow reversal. The reversal rarely announces itself. It blends in with normal progress. Familiar methods feel safer than unfamiliar truths. The very forces that create success begin, quietly and gradually, to undermine it. What once protected the system begins to dull it. Strength turns into weight. Stability reduces curiosity. This is how success creates its own failure. In the early phase, success is driven by pressure. Pressure sharpens attention. Pressure removes excess. Curiosity is forced by necessity. Resources are scarce. Scarcity forces prioritization. Competition is intense. Competition exposes weakness quickly. Errors are costly. Costs create memory. Every decision matters. Every action is visible. Survival depends on discipline. Discipline is not optional here. Systems are lean because they have to be. There is no room for comfort. Waste cannot be hidden. Waste threatens survival. Mistakes are corrected quickly or punished immediately. Feedback is direct. At this stage, success is fragile and earned. It is respected, not assumed. As success continues, conditions change. The environment softens. Routine begins to replace awareness. Resources increase. Slack enters the system. Margins widen. Mistakes become survivable. Threats feel distant. Distance reduces urgency. Routine feels efficient until conditions shift. What once required constant attention now feels stable. Stability creates habit. Systems that were built for survival begin to operate in comfort. Comfort dulls reflexes. Discipline starts to loosen, not because people become careless, but because urgency fades. Effort no longer feels existential. Expansion follows naturally. Growth feels inevitable. Success rewards repetition more than insight. Successful systems grow. Growth becomes expected. Over time, imitation replaces understanding. Businesses expand into new markets. Governments add new programs. Empires extend borders. Each expansion introduces unknowns. Each new frontier requires management. Growth feels like progress. It is rewarded as such. But each expansion increases complexity. Complexity taxes coordination. Coordination becomes harder. Signals weaken as distance grows. Information travels slower. Reality arrives late. Oversight weakens. Errors gain time to multiply. The system becomes harder to manage, even as it appears stronger. Appearance replaces function. With size comes layers. Layers promise control. New departments, new managers, new procedures. Each layer is created to solve a problem. Each layer adds friction. Together they slow movement. Speed becomes a liability. Decisions take longer. Consensus replaces clarity. Responsibility becomes diluted. Accountability fades. When outcomes are good, these delays are tolerated. Success justifies inefficiency. Comfort allows problems to be postponed instead of solved. Success also changes incentives. Incentives shape behavior more than values. In the beginning, rewards go to those who create value. Creation is visible early. Later, rewards go to those who protect existing structures. Preservation becomes safer than invention. Risk-taking becomes dangerous. Failure is punished more than stagnation. Innovation threatens stability. Stability becomes sacred. People who question the system are seen as disruptive rather than helpful. Criticism feels personal. Systems stop asking why and focus only on how. Correction slows. Learning decelerates. Over time, inefficiencies emerge. They grow quietly. They are small at first. They seem manageable. Extra costs, redundant roles, overlapping responsibilities. Each one feels harmless alone. Together, they accumulate mass. Because success continues, these inefficiencies are absorbed. Buffers hide decay. Performance remains high enough to mask them. Signals are muted. The system learns that it can afford to be inefficient. Tolerance becomes habit. Postponement becomes an informal policy. This tolerance spreads. Standards relax. Budgets become protected. Positions become entrenched. Processes become permanent. Reversal becomes politically expensive. Norms resist challenge by default. The system begins to prioritize internal balance over external reality. Internal peace replaces external fitness. It starts serving itself. Purpose drifts. Another shift occurs in perception. Psychology begins to dominate mechanics. Long-term success creates confidence. Confidence narrows vision. Confidence slowly becomes assumption. Assumption resists evidence. Leaders begin to believe the system works because of who they are, not because of conditions that may change. Identity replaces analysis. Experience is confused with relevance. Warnings are dismissed as pessimism. Dissent is reframed as negativity. Failures are blamed on temporary disruptions. Structural causes are ignored. The past becomes a guide for the future, even when the environment has changed. History is mistaken for guarantee. Feedback weakens. Reality struggles to speak. In early stages, mistakes generate clear signals. Signals demand response. In later stages, buffers absorb impact. Pain is delayed. Debt delays consequences. Reserves hide losses. Reputation buys time. Time becomes the enemy. Learning slows before performance drops. The system stops learning accurately. Learning becomes ceremonial. As feedback fades, decision-making becomes disconnected. Models replace observation. Plans are built on outdated assumptions. Risks are underestimated. Alternatives are ignored. The system becomes optimized for a world that no longer exists. Adaptation lags reality. Success also creates dependency. Dependency raises stakes. People organize their lives around the system. Change threatens identity. Jobs depend on it. Identities are tied to it. Communities rely on it. Fear enters reform discussions. This dependency increases resistance to change. Reform feels dangerous because stability supports livelihoods. Even when flaws are visible, change is postponed. Delay feels responsible. At this point, preservation becomes the goal. Survival replaces evolution. Short-term stability is prioritized over long-term health. Temporary fixes replace structural solutions. Warnings are acknowledged but delayed. Each delay feels reasonable. Each compromise feels small. Each concession seems harmless. Together they accumulate. Fragility grows. External conditions eventually shift. They always do. Markets change. Technology evolves. Resources tighten. Competition returns. Pressure re-enters the system. What was once manageable now creates stress. Margins shrink. Because the system is large and rigid, adaptation is slow. Speed has been traded for safety. Strain appears gradually. It spreads unevenly. Costs rise. Efficiency drops. Trust erodes. Confidence lingers longer than reality allows. But collapse does not come immediately. Resilience delays recognition. The system has survived challenges before. This memory becomes dangerous. Confidence in past resilience overrides present signals. Warnings feel familiar and ignorable. When failure arrives, it feels sudden. Shock replaces denial. But it is not sudden. It was forming quietly. It is the result of many decisions made under the assumption that success would continue. Assumption is the hidden enemy. Each choice was logical on its own. Context was missing. Each delay felt harmless. Each shortcut felt efficient. Together, they created fragility. Fragility hid beneath strength. This pattern appears repeatedly in history. The scale changes, not the cycle. Empires expand until administration fails. Corporations dominate until innovation stops. Institutions grow until purpose is lost. They fall not because they were weak, but because they became comfortable. Comfort is corrosive. Success reduces urgency. Urgency preserves discipline. Reduced urgency weakens discipline. Weakened discipline increases inefficiency. Inefficiency reduces adaptability. This chain unfolds slowly, often invisibly. It rarely feels dramatic. The most dangerous phase of any system is not crisis. Crisis sharpens focus. It is peak confidence. Confidence dulls perception. When warnings seem unnecessary, when growth feels permanent, when correction feels optional, that is when failure begins forming beneath success, quietly. Success does not guarantee collapse, but it creates conditions where blindness becomes likely. The longer success lasts, the harder it becomes to imagine its end. Imagination is replaced by assumption. How success creates its own failure is not a paradox. It is a process, a gradual shift from necessity to comfort, from discipline to preservation, from awareness to assumption. By the time failure is visible, success has already reshaped the system beyond its ability to adapt.